We have Mr. Vishal Malkan and Mr. Vijay Chopra joining us now. Good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for being on NDTV Profit. Vijay, what are your top picks for the day?
I would recommend three stocks for today. The first would be Tata Investment Corporation. The current market price of the stock is 665. It could be bought for a target of 690 and a further target of 720. And a stop loss of 640 should be strictly maintained on the stock. My second call would be Syntex. The stock has shown a decent run-up lately, and I think that there is still steam left in the stock. So it could be bought for a target of 113. The stock closed at 109, and a further target of 120 if somebody holds on with a short-term perspective. Although a stop loss of 107 should be maintained on the stock. My final call would be JSW Steel. Again, the stock has shown huge resilience from the lower levels, and I think that it can further see a decent up move, and we've seen what kind of run-up has happened in all the steel counters. So I think that, JSW Steel is also a good contender to run up. So the stock closed at 205 rupees yesterday. It could be bought for a target of 212, and a stop loss of 198 should be maintained on the stock.
All right, so three investment ideas coming in from Vijay. Vishal, what are your top picks?
Hi, good morning. I'll go with three buy picks, and first would be M&M Finance, which is making higher tops and higher bottoms on daily charts and momentum entering into bullish zone with volumes. So I'll go with a buy on that with a stop of 332 and targets of 360 and 365. And second one would be I'll go with a buy on CESC, which is trading into a range in the last few days and looking for a breakout on intraday chart. So I'm looking at a buy with a stop of 835 for targets of 875 and 885. And third would be ACC, which is broken above the resistance of 1450 and sustaining above that level. There's a gap also which is acting as a support. Hence, I'll go with a buy on that with a stop of 1460 for targets of 1525.
Shrikant Shetty from Motilal Oswal is also now joining us. Shrikant, what are your picks?
Yeah, we look at a couple of investment ideas. If you look at, I think, financial still looks the space where we think there are a lot of opportunities still. Within that, Yes Bank, among the private banks, looks the best of the lot in terms of relative valuations, where we see potential 30% upsides even from these levels. If you compare the valuations with the likes of HDFC Bank, Kotak Bank, I think there is scope for upsides there. So we like Yes Bank from investment perspective, especially after the fact that it's raised funds and now its carry ratio is pretty high. So we won't be needing immediate funds. It will be growing at about 28% kind of CAGR for next few years. So we think that's attractive from a valuation standpoint, and there is room for further re-rating. The other one would be in the housing finance name, I think DHFL. Again, a story where they've sold the insurance business. They'll again see a lot of improvement in their capital ratio for the improvement in margins. We like the housing finance space overall, which has been able to deliver about 18-20% kind of growth. So I think there is scope for big re-rating there as well. So we continue to like that story.
Right. So financial space, of course, would also be in focus because of results. We have Infosys this week, and then financials would start to declare numbers. Right. You expect private banks to do well?
In fact, that is the only probably secular sector, which will be delivering strong growth. If other than that, it's probably cyclicals which are going to deliver some year-on-year growth. But if you look at sectors which are more stronger sectors, among that it's the private banking sector where the quality of growth will be good. It will be only a private sector bank which will be able to deliver, I think, 18-20% kind of earnings growth on a year-on-year basis. So that's a sector where we think will clearly deliver strong growth. Other than that, it will be largely cyclicals. Could be metals, could be oil and gas. Even PSU banks to some extent because of the base effect where there were losses earlier. So this year it could be some improvement on that as well.
All right, let's talk about a few stocks that are in focus because of news developments, and we'll be watching them when markets open. We've got Vedanta that's going ex-dividend, giving a dividend of 17.7 rupees a share. So we will be watching out for this counter. Then we have Reliance Defence. Reliance Defence is having a board meeting to consider rights issue to the tune of 1,200 crore rupees. We also have Reliance Power in focus. It has signed an agreement for the phase 1 of the 750 megawatt LNG gas-based power project, and this power project is based in Bangladesh. We have HDFC, we have Suzlon. It has won a repeat order of 50 megawatts. So the order book for Suzlon is only improving. We have HDFC Bank, which will be in focus. It has announced that it will raise 50,000 crore rupees in the next 1 year through various debt instruments, which could include perpetual bonds, tier 2 capital. So we'll watch out for HDFC Bank. And we have Dilip Buildcon. It has bagged orders, EPC orders worth 700 crore rupees from the Transport Ministry. All these stocks will be in focus.
Right. One stock that was in focus yesterday, Anisha, was United Spirits, and towards the second half, you saw some news flow coming in regarding ban in Madhya Pradesh for alcohol, and that led to this move down. This 2%, of course, is the pre-open price. It's already trading right now in the pre-open session. Yesterday, it was down 6.5%. I looked at the delivery marked, which is 4.3 lakhs. The 10-day average for this stock in terms of delivery would be less than 1.5 lakhs. So it's almost double. In fact, slightly more than that in terms of the delivery being marked, and this is only delivery marked on NSE. Open interest change 1.5 lakh shares, so there's no shorting activity that you can get a sense of, but at least there is a lot of long unwinding that was seen yesterday. Let's see what the movement today is. Today, of course, it will also react to a lot of brokerages which have reacted to this news flow. Let's start with Morgan Stanley. They continue to maintain their overweight call. Their target price is 2,900 rupees a share. Of course, this has not been changed for a while now, but that time the stock was around 2,200 when their target price was 2,900. What they are saying in their note is that they would await further clarity as far as implementation of this prohibition news is concerned. Stock is likely to react negatively on prohibition news, and investor concern will be what happens with other states that go into polling. Whenever they go into polling, does this become one of the key issues to fight? That's essentially what their concern is. Macquarie says they maintain their underperformer. Their target price is 1,600 rupees a share. Prohibition plank, according to Macquarie, is getting louder now. GST could be another major issue in FY18. It could lead to surprises coming in on the negative side. Goldman says they would maintain their neutral. Their target price is 1,857. It's not changed after this news. It was already 1,857. So it's in and around there as far as their target price is concerned. They've spoken to a lot of investors regarding the stock going down yesterday, and their concerns is that other states may also join this prohibition. That's essentially the concerns that investors have. Shrikant, what would you do with a stock like United Spirits, where there is increasing negative news flow which is coming in? Can it, like ITC, just trade at very, very low multiples versus the FMCG pack?
See, in terms of multiples, I think even now the multiples would be fairly high. So if you talk of pure multiples, it probably will see some more downsides on account of that. But it's we all know it's a great franchise. It's a great business to be in from a long-term perspective. So of course the near term, the concern on prohibitions, regulatory issues, plus the GST, I think all these things is going to put some near-term pressure on the stock. So if you're looking at a near-term perspective, I don't think there's too much of upsides there because we don't have any clarity on how things play out. Also, the noise levels or even the actions on the prohibition front is only increasing. So clearly, there's going to be some pressure in the near term. The Supreme Court verdict on the highway vans will also have its own impact. So we need to see how these things play out before we can take a more sanguine call on it. But as I said, we do believe that being the leader in this sector, being the franchise where your entry barriers are significantly high, you have strong brands, you have a great management, you have a leader in this sector. So in that perspective, I think from a long-term story, it still remains pretty solid.
Right. So, the two news flows. So one is, of course, what is happening in the state of MP, which happened yesterday, and the highway rule that you just spoke about. Both of these would have a limited impact as far as numbers are concerned. The highway bit would be a transitory, and MP, of course, is just 2.5% of their entire sales. So you think that next year, or at least the next 6 months, could be a washout quarter as far as numbers are concerned?
As I see, normally even if in states where there has been bans, the sales have not got impacted. In fact, some of these states where there are bans, the sales tend to be even better. So we can't say that it'll have a washout quarter or something. But sentimentally, I think this things is going to have an impact. There has been some impact on the Supreme Court where we have seen liquor vans being stopped for the time being. So clearly there will be some impact. So there's no doubt about it that for at least one quarter there will be impact. We need to see how it plays out further.
Right, Vijay, what will be your call on United Spirits?
Well, I think that there are a lot of dark clouds over this sector. I would love to stay away from any of the liquor stocks as of now because, we are seeing that day after day, state after state, they're coming up with regulations which can impact the liquor companies, at least in the short term. So my take would be that traders they can stay away, and investors they can stay invested, because I think that this would settle down somewhere. But as of now, in the short term, there could be trouble for all the listed liquor companies, and we have seen a decent clampdown on the stock prices as well. So whether it's Radico or United Spirits or Tilak Nagar Industries, so this is definitely a knee-jerk reaction, and it might carry on for some time. But yes, it's a product which has huge demand, and it has a 12-month demand. So I think that these companies will come back sharply. But as of now, in the very short term, I think that people should stay away from these stocks.
Right. To Vishal, what are the levels to watch for United Spirits? It's already gone, I think, below that Diageo price of the day in which Diageo had announced that they would be looking to buy this company.
I look at there's an important support on United Spirits around 1800, and that once it closes below that, I'm looking at targets of around 1650 to 1700, where there's an important multi-year support where it can take support and consolidate. So I would look at those targets, but I would go with the other gentleman that I would avoid any stock which is in the news, especially in the negative news. So not to try to catch any bottom, let it consolidate and then show signs of improvement and accumulation, and then only get into that stock.
Right. Let's also welcome in Ashish Chaturmota. Ashish, good morning. What are your topics?
Good morning. So my first topic would be a long idea on Suzlon. The stock is looking very strong on the weekly and the monthly charts. Since the stock has also entered into the F&O space, we have seen a very strong build-up of positions. Around 1930, 1950, we have seen multiple resistances being seen in the stock. But in case the stock manages to sustain beyond 1950, we are looking for an upside target of 24-25 in next 1 to 2 months. So I think on upside, one can look for 20 to 25% upside from current levels in Suzlon. On downside, I think one can initiate a long with a stop below 18 levels. My second long idea would be UFO movies, which has again formed a weekly and monthly double bottom formation and has given a fresh breakout above 460 levels with a very strong volume participation. Again, in a cash segment, I think this stock has a potential to give 15% upside from current levels. So one can initiate a long position in UFO movies at current levels with a stop below 455, and an upside can look for a target of 510, 515 in a short term. In the F&O space, we like PSU banking basket, and there we like stock Bank of India, which is looking very positive. The stock has given a weekly monthly breakout with a very strong open interest addition. We have also seen a considerable amount of rollovers on the long side in most of the PSU banking basket. So I think this entire space looks very, very interesting, and within that, Bank India looks good for an upside target of 158, 160 levels. One can initiate a long position in Bank India with a stop below 142 levels.
All right. Ashish, what would you do with stocks like Titan, which saw some good open interest addition the day earlier, as well as JSW Steel from the steel space, which also saw good open interest addition? These two counters.
Yeah. So as far as Titan is concerned, it is trading at an all-time high, and we have seen a very considerable open interest addition on the long side. So I think on downside, this stock might see a very strong base around 470, 473 levels. It might remain in a consolidation zone for next 2-3 trading sessions. But once we see a good amount of consolidation happening, we might see this stock moving towards 520, 525 zone. So overall, it's a long recommendation, and any dip towards 475 should be used to average the long positions in Titan. As far as JSW Steel is concerned, looks interesting.
To you for JSW Steel, markets have opened 3 points higher, 9,184, so really no change. In fact, it's not even showing what SGX was doing, which was 20 points down. So 9,185, again, it's opened in the no man's land as per the levels that we showed you this morning. HDFC flat with the negative bias, Ambuja Cement 50 paisa lower, Hero MotoCorp is down about 0.3%, and HUL down about 0.5%. 4,000 shares in the first few seconds for HUL. well. Dr. Reddy's 15 rupees higher, 2650 for Dr. Reddy's. Eicher Motors 49 shares but down 7 rupees. ONGC 86,000 shares up about 0.7. Bharti Infratel, it continues to go up. Last few days it has gone up, and remember on 31st of March it gave a 12 rupees dividend. So actually the price is close to 370. Tata Motors on your screen is on the positive side. IOC continues to go up. BPCL continues to go up. IOC and BPCL in the last 3 days have added phenomenal gains. Reliance Industries flat, absolutely flat, no change, blinking into red and green. Bank of Baroda is flat with a negative bias. Tata Power, both Tata Power and Adani Power will be in focus today. There is an expected hearing today regarding the compensatory tariff. Let's see what comes out of that. Adani Ports 0.4 in terms of higher, 0.40 paisa higher, it's about 0.1% higher. Tata Motors DVR up close to 1 rupee, and HDFC is down about 1.5 rupee. Coal India absolutely flat. Tech Mahindra absolutely flat, no major change. HCL Tech, in fact the entire IT sector will be in focus. Yesterday IT went down, but let's see ahead of Infosys how does it go through. Vedanta, this is not a correction, it's ex-dividend by 17 rupees, so it's exactly adjusted for that. If you adjust for that, it's absolutely flat, so one should not see this as a 6% correction. It's just a technical adjustment which is happening for Vedanta Limited. 6% lower, 16 rupees down. Archie's went up 15% yesterday. Again, there was no news flow that I could pick up. Today it's also up 5%. And look at the volumes. It's already 10 lakh shares. It's not a counter which sees such volumes. It's not a counter which sees more than about 1-2 million volumes in the entire day. Just in 1 minute it's seen a volume. Maybe there is a block deal. The data that I have as of now is not reflecting that. So I'll just confirm whether there is a block deal on Archie's or not. M&M 4 rupees down, 5,000 shares as far as M&M is concerned. HDFC Limited is up around a rupee or so. Z Entertainment absolutely flat. Dr. Reddy's is up around 9 rupees. ACC down about 6 rupees. Hero MotoCorp down close to 5 rupees. Bajaj Auto 10 rupees decline, and Ultratech is also now opening. It's 3,000 shares traded. It's again a very less traded counter because it's 4,000 rupees and 18 rupees on the lower side. Unitech is up 5%, but it's just a 6 rupee stock right now. HCL Infosystems is 3% higher, 57. Thomas Cook with good volumes, 29,000 for Thomas Cook is a very good volume number, 2.5% higher, and JM Financial continues to go up, 4% higher. Some of these brokerage stocks have really done well in the last few days. Sonami Ceramics, there was a block deal yesterday. Franklin Templeton, a well-known fund globally, has bought into this. Today, of course, it's just 8,000 shares so far, but there seems to be a positive bias. Tata Sponge went up some 15-16% yesterday. Even Tata Metallics, both of these stocks were in focus. It's up 3% right now. Suzlon, 1.8% higher. They've got a 50 megawatt repeat order. Kajaria Ceramics is up 1.2. Alembic Limited is up 1.7. Wapco India is up 1% or so, but again for Wapco volumes is 365. RBL Bank continues to do well, 1.4% higher. In fact, after oil marketing companies, if there is a company that has done well, that's RBL in the last few days. Madras Fertilizer yesterday was also up 10%. Today is also up 10%. I think it's the upper circuit that it's hit. Yeah, I think it's in the upper circuit. So yesterday also it was on the positive side. Shriram City just 2 shares in terms of volume, 33 rupees higher. Grindwell Limited is up 5 rupees. Vardhaman Textile is down 1%. Ujjivan Financial went down yesterday. Today it's recovering with 51,000 shares in terms of volumes. It's up around 1% or so. Anisha, any other names that you can pick up?
Well, Unitech is up 5.5% today. And volumes also usually very high on this. MEP Infrastructure Developers up 3.5%. Sunil High-Tech again is up 3%, and Electrosteel Steels is up 2.5%. In fact, Electrosteel Steels is up nearly 40% in a week's time. It's seen a lot of action. There is news about restructuring for Bhushan Steels, and Electrosteel has also been trying to do the restructuring so that there's another management to run this company. This stock is doing well. What would you do with Archie's now, Vishal? It's done so well over the last 2 days. Do you think there's a breakout happening here, or would you be cautious?
No, definitely there is some kind of volume and breakout which is happening in the market, and there is a level which is crossed, which is for about 34. It is trading consistently with volumes. So definitely there is some kind of activity which is going on, and I would look at targets of around 38, half to 40 levels in the next few trading sessions. So definitely goes for a buy at these levels.
All right, so positive on Archie's. What would you do, Vijay, with Infosys? It's amongst the big gainers today. It's going to come out with its earnings in 2 days' time. And since its third quarter earnings, the stock is still in the red if you compare from about 3 months ago. What would you do with large cap like Infosys?
Sorry, I'm not able to get the stock. Which stock are we talking about?
Infosys.
Extremely sorry, the audio is bad.
I'm talking about IT major Infosys. All right, Ashish, can you tell us what you're seeing when it comes to open interest editions for Infosys? It's going to come out with its earnings in 2 days' time, and it's up 1% today.
Yeah, so in last couple of days we have seen a considerable amount of short build up in the stock, and stock has corrected from 1040 to almost 960 levels. We might see some amount of consolidation at these levels, but broadly speaking I don't see any major strength coming in the stock. However, in case if the stock posts a good result, and in that situation if the stock manages to cross 1000 mark, then there can be a huge short covering, but till then I would be very skeptical to go long in the stock till it doesn't cross 1000 levels.
All right, so that's the view coming in on Infosys. What would you do with some of the OMCs, Vishal? We've seen good performance from IOC, BPCL, HPCL. Anything that you like on the charts?
Out of all the stocks, I would go with the IOC, which is showing a good breakout above the levels of 400, and with good volumes. Momentum indicator is also into bullish zone. So I definitely think there is a lot of room in IOC, and where you can look at targets of around 450 to 60 in the next few trading sessions.
All right. Ashish, what do you make of the move in Tata Chemicals? It's moved up very well. It's above 600 rupees a share. What levels are you watching out for Tata Chemicals?
Yeah, so I think stock is at an all-time high, and this has come after a very long consolidation of many years. So I think this stock has a potential to cross 700 mark in coming few weeks or months. So I think broadly speaking, it's a long recommendation with buy at current levels, and any dip towards 600 levels should be used to average the long positions. I feel that 580, 590 should be acting as a very important support. In short term, we might expect target of 700, but looking into the broader structure, it looks this stock has a potential to even test 750, 770 levels.
All right, so a very long-term breakout coming in for Tata Chemicals. Vijay, what would you do with private banks like IndusInd Bank and Yes Bank? They consolidate, they move up, they consolidate, they move up. We're not seeing corrections coming in, but on valuations, they look quite expensive.
Well, markets and stocks can remain expensive, and quality stocks, especially companies like Yes Bank, where they have had a very clear stand on the asset quality, and they have maintained their asset quality quarter after quarter and year after year. My take is that these banks would keep on increasing, and we'll see Yes Bank reaching 1800 rupees or 2000 rupees within some time. So my take is that all the banks, whether they are private banks or public sector banks, I would be bullish with a longer term perspective. Yes, there could be some short term blips. We'll see some consolidation in these stocks, but all the quality names would grow over a period of time, and I think that there is a decent upside in the public sector banks, and I like them more than the private sector banks, because as you said, valuations are a bit stretched there, but they will keep on growing. But there's a lot of scope in the public sector banks, and I think that these banks would keep on growing. Banks like SBI, PNB, Bank of Baroda, Syndicate. We'll see a decent up move if somebody buys into these stocks and holds with a 2-year perspective.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us on NDTV Profit and sharing with us all your ideas. Please leave us with your disclosures. Ashish, any disclosures from you?
Yeah, a few of these stocks we might have recommended to our clients. I do not have any personal holding in any of them.
Vijay, your disclosures?
No personal holdings. We keep on recommending the stocks to our clients.
Vishal, your disclosures?
No personal holdings in any of the stocks discussed today.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us on NDTV Profit this morning.
Shrikant Shetty is still with us. Shrikant, I wanted to talk about Infosys first. Numbers come out. What do you expect? Despite being a weak quarter, you think markets have factored that in?
Yeah, to a large extent, I believe the numbers are factored in. I think what people are even expecting is that to a large extent there will be growth guidance about 8%. So I think anything about 8 to 10% growth guidance comes through. I think that it'll be a reasonably good growth guidance. But broad expectation is that this current number is going to be a negative number. Current quarter is going to be a negative quarter. So in terms of probably the weakest one we have seen in the near term. So that's really what is getting discounted currently. And of course,
what do you mean by negative numbers? Negative growth?
For the entire sector, if you look at it for the entire sector, we are expecting negative growth for this entire space. So largely that will be a reflection of, I think, for everyone. And plus the fact that currency has gone to 64, I think that has created an additional headwind kind of thing where we're not sure how this will get played out over a period. So that because most of the analyst expectations, I think, or estimates which are there in the street still continue to factor in rupee at probably 67, 68 for next year. So if you're looking at 64, then things do change for them because on one hand growth is a concern. The other way, where there are structural issues, then there is a currency-related issue, which could hit margins. So the bottom line could have an impact even worse than what people are predicting earlier. So that could be something which one would want to get some idea on before you start plunging into it. But in terms of valuations, I think it's reasonable valuation at these levels.
Right. In terms of capital allocation, so we've heard something from TCS regarding buyback, HCL regarding buyback. You think expectations would build up for Infosys as well regarding a buyback or maybe a dividend?
Yeah, I think expectations of buyback will definitely be there because most of the other companies have already done it. Infosys on the sidelines has spoken about it, but there's been nothing announced as it. So there is the expectation that probably on the results day or during the board meeting we could have some decision on that. So I think given that there should be pressure on that front, obviously the expectation will be there. So and they're sitting on a fair amount of cash there. So and it's been there, it's been unused. They're not talking about any acquisitions at least in the near term. So I think there is a reasonable expectation that there could be some buyback. And given prices, given that the stock price have corrected, there's all the more reason to go through with that.
Right. RBL Bank has done very well. It's gone up some 100 rupees in the last few days. Don't you think valuations are now looking extremely stretched even when you compare it to a name like Yes Bank?
I would say so. Valuations are rich for RBL, but see, if you look at the growth perspective, where RBL is currently, and it's able to deliver 30% kind of growth on a consistent basis. So it just is a horizon where people are probably looking at a more longer term kind of horizon. That's the reason why they would be looking at RBL at these levels as well. So people are willing to give growth a premium today, and here is a bank which is able to deliver, or at least looks confident of delivering, which has the kind of segment growth which is able to deliver more than 30% kind of growth consistently. So you don't have too many names in the private banks with this kind of size which is able to deliver 30% kind of growth. You have probably an Yes Bank where I think we're talking about 20-25% kind of growth, but a 30% kind of growth on a consistent base for next few years is something which you will hardly find in any other bank.
Right. So that's what you think markets are trying to factor in?
Clearly. I mean, see, the market is clearly giving premium to growth today, and that's where valuations are getting rich. Otherwise, you would find it difficult to justify it at 3 times or plus 3 times kind of book, 3-4 times book, which it currently trades at.
Right. Let's talk about oil marketing companies as well, and especially BPCL and IOC, because they've done well. Now, as a brokerage house, Motilal has liked these names since past, but Q4 is expected to be weak. I was just looking at the Q4, previews that we keep getting. So oil marketing companies are expected to deliver a weak quarter, weakest at least in the last 7-8 quarters. Still, why do you think stocks are going up?
See, I think on a broad perspective, there's a space which we still continue to like. It may be a quarterly blip which can happen because there are a couple of either if refining margins are going down a bit, there can be impact on the quarterly numbers. There normally tends to be inventory related issues which can have quarterly implications. But if you look at on a structural basis, what has happened is clearly because of regulatory changes which have happened, regulation changes which have happened, the companies are able to price in their products on a regular basis. In fact, there's been reports that they're looking to price it on a day-to-day basis now. like internationally. If that happens, then I think it's even more better. Today, because it's a 15-day kind of pricing, there tend to be some ad hocism in there. But if it's a day-to-day pricing, even better. So we are looking at a scenario where the valuations are still reasonable for these companies. I mean, most of them would be at, if you look at a dividend model or on an earnings P basis, I think they look reasonably attractive, despite the kind of rally which we have seen in some of the OMCs.
Right. So, earlier, of course, the preference for everyone was BPCL. What will be your preference in this sector?
We can do like BPCL, we can do like IOC. I think these are probably the preferred names currently. But on a broad sector base, I think we like all the three of them. HPCL is corrected though. So when we took a bit of more preference for IOC, HPCL was trading around 600. It's moved back to 500 odd levels. It's corrected from about 15-20% from that levels. So I think closer to 520, 530, you would want to look at HPCL as well. Why not?
Right. In terms of capital goods, what do you like? L&T has done well. ABB and Siemens are going up today, and yesterday also they went up. Do you think large cap capital goods is something which will deliver numbers in FY18?
See, as a broad sector wise, there seems to be a trend which is building up towards a potential rally for capital goods space. So that is definitely happening. We are seeing positive vibes coming in from in the capital goods space. But in terms of actual numbers delivery, we are not seeing yet anything great happening in the capital goods space. So we would stick to L&T as a play where we think on a broad economic pickup or a broad capital goods space pickup, we think L&T would be the best to participate in. So we would prefer to stick to L&T.
Right. So basically, L&T among the large cap names is the only buy.
Only buy, yes.
And what would be the trigger that these stocks would do well? Execution pickup has to happen.
Both order flows and execution pickup, because in terms of order flows also it's been a bit slow. We've seen a slow order book move for L&T as well, and in terms of even margins, probably some of the legacy issues, but going ahead, the margins are better for the new orders. I think there could be some margin pickup going ahead, but as of now we're not seeing anything of that kind. Even in the near term, probably there will be margin pressures for L&T. So, but going ahead, if we want to play a capital goods story, I think we're looking at L&T. From a long-term perspective, I think it is in the kind of space where at least the potential opportunities remain fairly large, whether it's defense, whether it's infra, whether it's exports related opportunities. I think they're all where there could be significant opportunities for it. There could be others, like I said, in the MNC pack, that these could play out, but on a prima facie, they do look pretty expensive.
Right. In terms of USL, we discussed about the news flow, but I wanted to understand that, these are great businesses to own. Of course, as you even pointed out earlier, they have market share gains or, the best market share in terms of dynamics. At what level, would you want to buy United Spirits? It's down about 3% today as well. At what level should one start to accumulate this thing?
I think, see, if you look at anything, I think marginal declines from here, I think would be good levels to accumulate. I don't think there will be too much downsides from these levels, to be frank. If you look at even the negative sentiment which is there, on a broad basis, you'll have to probably look at on a sales multiple rather than a PE multiple, because the earnings is not there in the near term. So you look at a company which has such significant market share, then sentiment-wise, the stock can correct, but it's very difficult to take a call what exactly the bottom. But I think there will not be too much downside from these levels. I don't see it.
And also, when you look at something like a United Spirits or any other major good branded company, downside would be limited.
Major branded in liquor segment?
In any other segment, when they correct, when a branded company which owns great brands, when it corrects, generally the downside has been limited. So would that also be applicable for United Spirits?
It will be. See, in this case, the competitive advantage also remains with United Spirits. So nothing changes. It's an entire sectoral issue. It's not a individual company specific issue where it is suddenly facing more competition or something of that kind. No, it's not that case. So if it's in a branded company where suddenly there is more competition coming in, and because of that it can lose market share or something like that, then it's a different case where you can have a derating kind of scenario for even a branded company which has been doing very well. But here it's not that case.
Right. For pharma sector, would you start to allocate some money over there? What would be your top picks in the pharma sector? Because it's a sector which has not done well for the last 2 years.
So see, it's a sector which has done relatively okay. I mean, in that sense, because it has done earlier it was doing extremely well. So it's been a year where nothing much has happened. Whether you take any names, whether it's Sun, Lupin, Reddy's, Cipla, I mean, stocks have actually done nothing for about a year now. So clearly it's a bit difficult one. From a long term, we still like this sector. We think it will play out. So our preferred names would be Sun Pharma, Lupin, I think Aurobindo Pharma. These are some of the names which we like within the large caps. So those one would be preferred.
Right. Do you track Tata Sponge, Tata Metallics? These are names which are 15% in the last few days.
No, sorry.
Okay, so can you just tell us a view on the metals pack, especially the steel pack first?
So within the steel pack, we like JSW Steel. I think that looks interesting in terms of where numbers are good, where there's reasonable amount of growth. More of a turnaround story or kind of cash flow improvement story would be probably in Jindal Steel. It will be slightly higher risk kind of thing where we are anticipating a recovery coming in. The sales growth has happened, the volume growth is happening, but in terms of actual bottom line visibility is
Just for Jindal Steel, I wanted to know, you mean JSPL?
Yeah, Jindal Steel
Jindal Steel and Power Limited. Right. So why is that interesting?
It is interesting in the sense that it'll start delivering cash flows. It is a turnaround kind of story, so it'll be a slightly high risk kind of thing. But in terms of volume growth, which we are already seeing volume growth happening, it has already delivered one of the strongest volume growth in the last quarter. So with new capacity getting commissioned, we'll all see further strong volume growth happening there. So there is a case for a turnaround. It may be a slightly higher risk if steel prices tend to move. We'll need to be it could be a bit more volatile, but yeah, it could be interesting.
Right. Also, Hindalco, Vedanta, there is a lot of balance sheet improvement which has happened over there. Would you buy these names?
See, we have broadly in the metal space, we continue to prefer Hindalco. I mean, that has been the best, our top pick of ours for quite some time now. And we continue to like Hindalco. We have a target about 230 kind of levels. We still continue to like it, despite the fact that it has moved up substantially.
Right. Shrikant, thank you so much for taking out time for us. Always good to get a perspective. Just before we go, any disclosures?
Well, we've spoken about a lot of stocks, but no personal holdings in any of them, but surely the stocks would have been recommended to clients.
Thank you so much, Shrikant, for taking out time for us.